Coach Carroll just called me, Pops. I'm gonna be a Seahawk. I can't believe it. My whole life, I swear to God, starting tomorrow, every day I'm living V12. I'm living V12. I can't believe it. Tell that boy Russell Wilson we started early, 5 a.m. sharp tomorrow. I'm not playing. I want a ring, Pops. My first year. NFL draft. Always an emotional person and a lot of emotional people involved because it includes a lot of dreams coming true. If you are a fan, you're looking forward to it. Obviously, there's no crowd. There's no people involved, really. But the NFL draft is tomorrow. And I want to make mention that before I do this, there was a shit ton of notes I had to take for this. We're going to preview the NFL draft, every single rumored player going in the very first round. There's a lot of information on here, but it's going to be a very useful video. Stay tuned. It's that time of year for the NFL draft again, except it's going to be a little bit different this year. Believe it or not, the fans add a unique aspect to the NFL draft, but I think that even despite that, the NFL draft is one of those things that you can still properly execute without fans. Now, again, it's all great to see them walk on stage and do all these kind of things, but obviously with the coronavirus pandemic happening, that's not really a possibility. So they're going to be doing it virtually. But I still think that you can execute this very, very good, and you can make it very interesting because really, in all the reality of it, there's nothing better than getting a phone call from a coach of a professional football team telling them that they are drafting you to make it. But however, it does, it's not as exciting because, again, you want to see, all these guys come on stage. You want to see all these guys because I possibly can. But again, that's not always an option, and that's kind of could be partially an issue with this video particularly. There are 6 teams that do not have a first-round pick. We will go over them as well. We are only doing the first round because the first picks are the most important and the most dire of needs for the team to address. We are not going to go over the entire 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th because I do not get paid $1 million a year to do so. But this is a lot of work, and I put the time into this. So let's get things started off with the very, very first pick. The Cincinnati Bengals have the very, very first pick in the NFL draft, and the team desperately needs a quarterback. Now, Andy Dalton said that he would be willing to play as a backup quarterback for the Bengals, and that is what it is looking like. If you ask anybody, everybody's pretty much unanimous on the very first pick with the Bengals, and they're all saying that Joe Burrow is going to come and be the quarterback that hopefully saves the Bengals going forward. Joe Burrow is the guy. I can't really see the Bengals picking anybody else. I don't really think that anybody else fits other than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow will probably be the first pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, and they desperately need a quarterback. Number 2 is the Redskins. The Redskins are one of those teams that need a edge rusher, and I can't think of anybody better than Chase Young. Now, the Chase Young was also a guy that the Giants could desperately benefit from. We're going to get to the Giants at number 4 in a minute. But the Redskins desperately need an edge rusher, and I can't think of somebody better than Chase Young. I can't see them passing on him. They have the 2nd pick in the draft, and if they do, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Lions. And if he somehow made it to number 4, which I don't see happening, Chase Young is going to be drafted by the Redskins. I do see Chase Young going to the Redskins. He would be a tremendous edge rusher and one of, if not the best edge rushers in the draft. They could shock the world, though, and draft a tackle. Trent Williams did retire for the Redskins, so again, that's one of those things, too, where maybe the Redskins are willing to shock the world and get a tackle. But I think the guy you have to go with here is Chase Young, and I do think that the Redskins are going to draft Chase Young as a team that desperately needs an edge rusher. Number 3 is the Lions. The Lions are the 3rd pick in the NFL draft, and they desperately need a cornerback. And it seems like Jeffrey Okudah is going to be the guy that they're going to be picked. Some people are saying, no, I don't see this happening, that the Lions, despite even being at number 3, could trade up for a quarterback. Again, I don't know. You Lions fans would have to tell me out there how many years or what is basically Matthew Stafford's situation with the Lions. We know how he's a very good, bad, ugly, and everything in between quarterback. But I think that the Lions are going to draft Jeffrey Okudah. That's what a lot of the rumors are. Definitely to boost that secondary for the Detroit Lions, and that's one of those things that they're going to try to do going forward. And a lot of local people and family and friends are going to be seeing this. Number 4 is the Giants. This team could desperately benefit from an offensive tackle. Now, we know their defense is in shambles, and they could definitely use an edge rusher. However, unless they were to trade up, which I don't see happening, the Giants are going to probably be looking for a tackle, or somebody like Tristan Wirfs, who's one of the highest tackles. Again, this NFL draft has a lot of tackles. It's very
tackle loaded and very wide receiver loaded, and there's a lot of teams that can benefit from both of those. Assuming Chase Young is off the board, the Giants need to do the best to try to protect Daniel Jones. Their offensive line is not that great either. They might go with Tristan Wirfs, or Isaiah Simmons also is another rumored pick for the New York Giants. But I think they're going to go with a tackle here. Had Chase Young been available at this point, I think that Chase Young would be one of the people without question that would fit perfectly in the Giants, considering that they need that pass rush. But I don't think that he will be, because I think the Redskins are going to take him at 2. And I'm thinking that Tristan Wirfs, who's one of the best offensive tackles in the draft, I would think the Giants are going to get an offensive tackle. Edge rusher would be ideal. But again, the guy that they really, really liked, Chase Young, will probably not be on the table. So I'm going to go with the Giants to get an offensive tackle here. Now, number 5, I didn't really make any notes of rumored potential trades, because that's just prediction of what's going to happen. A lot of these players that are going on to these teams are thinking of different things. I'm not sold on the Dolphins being the 5th pick in the draft, because for some reason, I think that the Patriots, we all know they desperately need a quarterback, and the Patriots are pick number 23, and I think that the Patriots are actually going to trade up. Do they trade with the Dolphins? That remains to be seen. Now, again, the team is not sold on Ryan Fitzpatrick long-term, and they shouldn't be. Justin Herbert is a viable option that they're thinking of as a quarterback that the Dolphins could take. Again, there's been a lot of rumor and speculation about Tua, but again, Tua's hurt, and we're not quite sure what we're going to get from Tua. And again, that's one of those things where Tua is a bit of a risk. But I think that the Dolphins are going to draft a quarterback. Now, there's an outside shot that a lot of people are saying that the Dolphins could draft a running back. I'm not quite sure they're going to do that. I think that the Dolphins are going to go with a quarterback. But the question is, who is it going to be? We have Justin Herbert as a viable option again. And Tua is one that a lot of Dolphins fans that I've spoken to have said that they've been interested in. But I'm not quite sure really where Tua goes. Now, I think personally Tua is pick number 5 or pick number 6, because pick number 6 is the LA Chargers. And if there's any team that needs a quarterback, could need a quarterback, is going to be the LA Chargers. Now, the Chargers are in a unique situation because the Chargers have Tyrod Taylor. Now, again, Tyrod Taylor is a decent quarterback, but he's not a quarterback that's going to be a franchise quarterback. And I've never looked at Tyrod Taylor as a franchise quarterback. And again, Tua, if he doesn't get picked by the Dolphins, will be an option perhaps for the Chargers to get a quarterback. They can also get a tackle. It's a tough choice. And again, the Chargers fans that will talk to you more so, I think that a lot of them want a quarterback. But again, it's all a matter of who's and what is available. Now, I think personally the Dolphins are going to risk it, and they're going to go for Tua because they like him. So that would mean the Chargers should get Justin Herbert. I think that either Justin Herbert or Tua, both of those guys will find a place on the Chargers or Dolphins, but it's a matter of where. But again, that kind of rallies to my point of, I think that the Patriots are going to trade up and make a huge spark and splash and try to get Tua. There's been a lot of rumors about the Patriots trying to get Tua as their quarterback. Obviously, Brian Hoyer is just a backup. He's not going to be a long-term solution here. So I think that the Dolphins probably trading up to get Tua is very realistic. I mean, the Patriots trading up, I'm sorry. But again, or they could just say screw it and get a running back. But I don't see that. I definitely see the Dolphins drafting a quarterback, but it's a matter of who. I would say Justin Herbert to be safe, but we'll have to see. Again, the Chargers, perhaps Tua or a tackle, tough choice. Went over that. Number 7 is the Panthers. The Panthers was the 7th pick in the NFL draft. Luke Kuechly retired, and again, that is not a guy that is replaceable. However, they need a linebacker now. Simmons is still available potentially at this point, Isaiah Simmons. Maybe they can get a corner as well. You have to keep in mind that James Bradberry did sign with the Giants. Maybe the Panthers want to gamble and get C.J. Henderson as their corner. Okudah, if the Lions don't take Jeffrey Okudah at number 3, that's also an option, but I don't think Okudah will be there because I think that he's probably going to be the corner that the Lions would like, and the Lions are rumored to get. But I definitely think a linebacker should be what the Panthers are looking for here. Maybe Simmons is still available. C.J. Henderson would also be a viable option as a corner for the Panthers to get if they choose to not get a linebacker. But I think the Panthers should try to prioritize getting a linebacker at number 7. Now, number 8 is interesting. There's a lot of rumors about the Arizona Cardinals potentially trading down. And again, I'm not quite sure, where I think about that. The team definitely needs defensive help. They think that they should draft maybe a defensive tackle. One of the defensive tackles that's very prominent in the draft is Derrick Brown. Or they can just say maybe we'll get a tackle, Jedrick Willis, or if Tristan Wirfs is still available, I think the Cardinals used to either get a tackle of some sorts. whether it's a defensive tackle or offense. I think that they just need to try to give Kyler Murray a little bit of time because the Cardinals' offensive line I don't think is really that great. But again, defensive tackle or someone that can get to the quarterback, because the Cardinals' defense is kind of just all over the place. Derek Brown's one of those guys that I feel like is going to go early. That's what a lot of people are saying. So I think that the Cardinals might take the risk and go for Derek Brown. That's kind of one of the things that I am going with. So I think that they're going to get a defensive tackle at number 8. And that's just kind of just my opinion on that. Number 9 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, they might get Brown if he's there because they desperately need a corner, though, and they also could use a receiver. If the Jaguars would like, they can add a little bit of spark to their team, and they might pull the trigger and get Jerry Jeudy at the number 9 spot, or Javon Kinlaw, who's an edge rusher. The Jaguars are in an interesting situation because they really do need a corner. They could benefit from a receiver, and they could also use an edge rusher. The Jaguars' defense is a little bit in shambles now, so they kind of have to understand where they would be going, just going here. I think, personally, for the Jaguars, I would try to get a receiver. Again, because at the number 9 spot, there's probably a solid amount of receivers that are still left for people to get. So I would say maybe I would maybe pull the trigger on Jerry Jeudy for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But again, the more I think about it, it makes sense. I think the Jaguars should get a corner. If there's no corner or there's a corner that rubs them the wrong way, pull the trigger on Jerry Jeudy. But there's another team I think might pull the trigger on Jerry Jeudy a couple of slots later. Draft pick number 10, Browns were very upsetting last year. They were overrated, overhyped, and they underproduced. They need a few things, but I think one of the things that the Browns need to really focus on is a tackle. For the love of God, can somebody protect Baker Mayfield? I don't think there's anything else that the Browns should be worried about besides offensive tackle. Josh Jones is a rumored name for the Cleveland Browns at the offensive tackle position, and I think that that's who they need to go with. Maybe not him specifically, but I think that the Browns need to draft the offensive tackle. They really do, because this can't. Baker Mayfield has his own issues, but the guy has to have more time. The Browns need to really work on giving him that protection, so the Browns need to draft a tackle. Number 11 is the New York Jets. A lot of people are saying it's very tempting to give Darnold more weapons and see how tempting a wide receiver grab would be for the Jets. But the problem is that their offensive line is so awful that you need to address that first before you get, I expect a lot of wide receivers to still be left. Especially at the number 11 spot. I know wide receiver is tempting, but the Jets have to get an offensive tackle. Mekhi Becton is one of the names. Again, I probably botched that completely, that the Jets are rumored to be interested in. I think that if I'm the Jets, again, a wide receiver is tempting, but nothing outside of an offensive tackle is a priority for the Jets. The Jets need an offensive line desperately because Sam Darnold is a chicken with his head cut off. You need to get the Jets an offensive tackle. That needs to be their priority. Who it is, we don't know. Get an offensive tackle. Number 12 is the Las Vegas Raiders. The team needs to center out the wide receiver position. There's a lot of potential targets that are probably still available. Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb. They also could benefit from a corner, perhaps even Jalen Johnson or Trevon Diggs. I think for the Raiders, I would go for a corner. Again, there's so many receivers in this draft. It's very difficult. But I do think that the Raiders do have talent at wide receiver already. I don't think that they're where they want to be, and I think that the Raiders would be definitely interested in getting a wide receiver. But I think that the best situation for them would be to get a corner. I would say Trevon Diggs, because Trevon Diggs is pretty popular, and I think that they should pull the trigger on him when they get the chance. The Colts traded the number 13 pick to San Francisco for DeForest Buckner earlier in the year, and that is where they are. The 49ers have a number 13 pick. They need secondary help because Richard Sherman can't do it all alone. If Trevon Diggs is still available and the Raiders don't snag him, that's a guy they could get. Also, C.J. Henderson, who I think is going to be gone. They could take a huge gamble, though, the 49ers. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why the hell would they get a running back? Well, they want a solid running back. They have a core of 4 to 5 different running backs. Now, we don't know really where they go. What is this? What is that? I think for them personally, or they could get a safety, Xavier McKinney. The San Francisco needs to do something with their secondary and give Richard Sherman some help. So I would go for, see what corners are left, and if you can't get a corner, pop a safety and get Xavier McKinney, who's another name that is popular in this draft. Number 14 is Tampa Bay. Now, the team needs an offensive tackle, obviously, to protect Brady. That will be important, but I also think they could get a running back. Ronald Jones was decent, but they don't have much depth behind him. It's a short depth chart, and the defensive line is not deep enough. Now, I don't feel like this is a very running back heavy draft. So at this point, at being number 14, I think personally Tampa Bay would have a good shot at pretty much any running back that they would want if they are to get the and maintain the number 14 spot. It's really hard to say here, but I might pop a defensive lineman, or I think honestly I'd risk it and get a running back. If they don't think their defensive line, there's certain ways that you can build that, but I think, a lot of people are going to call me crazy for this, but if Tampa Bay gets a running back, it adds a little bit of depth there, and it's not all Ronald Jones because they have their offenses loaded. But again, it almost doesn't make sense because you would want to get a defensive line because your offense is so powerful now, especially with the addition of Gronk. Denver Broncos, they bolstered their running core. They signed Melvin Gordon to give Lindsey some help, but I think the Broncos should focus on a wide receiver. They need to give Drew Lock weapons, and I don't think that he has enough. And again, they also are losing some names. As a corner, they lost Chris Harris Jr. Now, for wide receiver, there's some names here. Henry Ruggs III is a good option, assuming that CeeDee Lamb or Judy are gone. Those are two names that I think that they should consider. Have they still be available? If not, they could also gamble on trying to potentially replace Chris Harris Jr., which I don't think is really a possible task, but they can try to replace him to the point where they could get, just more of, a little bit of help at corner again but the Broncos definitely need to build their offense, and I think I would draft the wide receiver, help Drew Lock out, because we know Drew Lock has potential. So either three of those guys, Broncos should draft the wide receiver. Falcons, number 16. The defensive line is the first thing that's coming to mind. They have no pass rush, really. They also need a corner that could help, or even a running back to add depth behind Gurley. Two of the names that come familiar for edge rushers or defensive linemen are Javon Kinlaw and Kevon Chesson. Javon Kinlaw is not one of those guys I think is going to stick around forever, so I think that the Falcons would be a good place for him. And I believe that it's just, for me, it's kind of, the Falcons are in that situation where they need some defense help. They were building their offense, and that's great, but they need some defensive help. So I would go with Javon Kinlaw, and I would try to get an edge rusher for the Falcons at 16. Number 17 is the Dallas Cowboys. Their defense definitely needs secondary help. They lost some different names, but a lot of people are saying Kevon Chesson as an edge rusher for the Cowboys to draft. They could definitely benefit from a little bit more of an improved pass rush at number 17. But again, really all depends on what they're willing to do here. What kind of corners, what kind of safeties, what kind of guys are available left, halfway through the first round. We're not quite sure. But I would say Kevon Chesson as an edge rusher and maybe risk it if there's no corners that are available. Number 18 is the Dolphins for a second spin. A lot of people are saying they want to really strengthen their backfield, and they like Xavier McKinney, or they can get a lineman as well. I'd say Xavier McKinney. I think they should boost their safety. The Dolphins should work on building that defense that was so piss poor last year. Xavier McKinney would be a good addition to the Miami Dolphins had he still been available. Number 19 again is the Raiders. They need to bolster their secondary on their second pick. C.J. Henderson, if he's still available, go and get him. Secondary help, that is what I would go with. I don't really have too much for that. Sorry about that. Number 21 is the Philadelphia Eagles. The team desperately needs a wide receiver, and it needs to be their first priority. A lot of their receiving core was hurt last year. They didn't have the support. They didn't have really what they needed. They could also risk it and select a safety, but I think your best bet for this first pick is a guy that is T. Higgins. Not a lot of people are interested in him, but regardless, the Eagles have to get a wide receiver with pick number 21 because Lord knows what they'll have or what'll be left by the time they pick again. Number 22 is the Minnesota Vikings. Stephon Diggs left. They need a wide receiver. The Vikings need to be on the same exact mindset that the Philadelphia Eagles are if the Eagles do not trade up. If I'm the Minnesota Vikings at 22, I need to try to plug a wide receiver hole. Our defense is strong. Our running back is strong. We have a quarterback. Fill that wide receiver hole. Get another weapon back. 23 is the Patriots. Now, I think the obvious idea here would be for them to get a quarterback. The question is what quarterbacks are left. The team might actually trade up. If not, we've heard Jordan Love is a potential quarterback they're interested in. Or they might even say, since their linebacker core got depleted, let's get a linebacker. Zach Baum is another name that they could get. But I think the Patriots need to get a quarterback, and I do not see the Patriots at pick 23. I actually do think they're going to move up. 24, the New Orleans Saints. They could have a solid option. They need to bolster the secondary, help out Janoris Jenkins and all those guys. A lot of people are saying Christian Fulton. Same thing goes with number 25. The Vikings have another pick at 25. If Christian Fulton's not picked by the Saints, a lot of people are saying they might see him go here. Christian Fulton as number 25 pick. 26, the Dolphins, yet again. The Dolphins are probably going to get a tackle with their pick here. They want to help out. You know, they bolster different things. Austin Jackson is a name that's coming up for the Dolphins at 26. Now we get to the teams that had a very successful, we're getting to the nitty-gritty here, and we also are getting to teams that had a very successful season. You know, a lot of them didn't finish where they wanted. There was only one team that won the Super Bowl. Number 27 is the Seahawks. Now, I for some reason think that the Seahawks are going to try to chase an edge rusher here. Again, you know, Javon Clowney, all those type of things. They might trade down. A lot of people are saying the Seahawks might trade down. There's a pass rusher by the name of Yetur Matos that I think a lot of people are talking about the Seahawks going in this position. So the Seahawks are probably going to get an edge rusher with their first pick, which brings me to the Baltimore Ravens. People are saying that Kenneth Murray is the best linebacker in the draft. The Baltimore Ravens are looking to probably draft a linebacker at the number 28 spot, just because we're expecting for this team to kind of just build on their defense a little bit in linebackers. You know, there's a lot of things that happened with their linebacking core, the Baltimore Ravens. So that is kind of what I would expect there. Number 29 is the Titans. Now, the Titans, for me, I know from a first-hand look as a fan, I love a run protection. I love a lot of what we captured, but I think that we need better pass protection. And I think that offensive tackles being loaded in this draft, I think the Titans should get an offensive tackle at the number 29 spot. They're saying, a lot of people are saying Isaiah Wilson, if he's still left. You're going to have to see what's left, but I think the Titans will get an offensive tackle for their first pick in number 29. Number 30 is the Green Bay Packers. You know, Aaron Rodgers has had, you know, you got Devontae Adams there, but the Packers could definitely benefit from some more weapons. And I think a lot of people are saying he's a reliable route runner. Michael Pittman Jr., I think the Packers should draft a wide receiver perhaps at number 30. That's just kind of one of the things I think. Number 31 is the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe they want to add some more wide receiver weapons. We know the 49ers are good on defense. Again, they've had a pick already in this draft. Maybe they want to pop a receiver, a tackle to protect. I think the 49ers get a tackle if they get a number 31 draft pick, and that does not change. And the last but not least, in the very first round, is the Kansas City Chiefs. It seems like the Kansas City Chiefs secondary is flying all over constantly, and it never stays intact. The Chiefs should draft a corner to try to bolster their secondary, which has been a sort of a weak spot throughout their season, and in certain aspects, not completely. But I would say if I was the Kansas City Chiefs, I would draft a corner with the last pick in the first round of the draft. Do not have a first round pick, and again, that potentially could change. The Colts have a second round pick. A lot of people are saying the Colts might trade up. They should be looking for a corner. Some of the names that come through are Michael Ojemita. The Bills, again, are another team. They do not have a first round pick, but they're likely to look for a long-term corner. They want to keep that good defense that they had intact, and they want a corner that's going to stay. The Steelers, to me, desperately need playmakers, and it's just that simple. We don't know. We have no idea what kind of wide receivers are going to be left in the second round. Again, maybe the Steelers trade up. I could see the Steelers trading up. I think a wide receiver is something that they need to look for. Definitely, if I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I should have my eye and do my research on wide receivers. Last but not least, and again, that's me flipping the page, there's 3 teams left. The LA Rams is another one. They need to prioritize an edge rusher. They need to get a long-term cornerback, and with their next pick, they can also get a tackle as well, because they lost Dante Fowler as well, and that's going to be somebody that is going to be a little bit difficult to replace. The Bears, they need secondary help. They could get a very dangerous safety that they like, and they remind him to add up with Eddie Jackson, and we don't think that he's going to be picked very, very early. Antoine Winfield Jr. is one of the names the Bears have been looking at. The Texans as well. Defense needs to be their sole focus for most of, if not the early part of the draft. Maybe they trade down for a safety. We don't know, but there's also a defensive tackle by the name of Ross Blacklock that the Houston Texans are interested in. Their secondary is very young. They could gamble on a cornerback. Maybe Jalen Johnson still available. We don't know exactly. But ladies and gentlemen, I do wish everybody a very, very good luck in the NFL draft. This is just some of the notes I took. Again, I went through some of them kind of faster. But again, it really all depends. There's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of trading that's going to happen. But if everything were to stay intact like that, that is just some of the things that I think would make sense. That's just my opinion. I do want to wish everybody a very good luck and